Agenda approval. Do we have anything from staff? Seems like a few updates.
Yes, Mayor, we have a few updates. So item 6B, we have an updated presentation. Item 7B, C, and D, we have updated minutes from draft minutes from April 25th, 27th, and the work session on the 27th. Item 9A, that's actually erroneous. It says it's updated. It's not an updated presentation. That is the same. And then item 14A2 has been removed and will be added to this session for 521. Those are all the changes from staff.
Okay. Anything from council? No? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Commission representatives, we have Lindsay and Phil today, either in person or online. We got
Phil is online.
perfect. And then we have open forum for items not on tonight's agenda. If anyone would like to speak, Jay can walk us through that. And
Ladies and gentlemen, if you please step up to the microphone, state your name, your address, and speak to the dais in terms of whatever issue you have for something that is not on the agenda.
No takers? Okay. Then we will move right on to presentations, of which we have two. The first one is recognizing National Police Week, and I have a resolution that will approve and consent, but I will read it here, and then if anyone has any comments, feel free to jump in after. If I can find that resolution. Marked it for a reason. There we go. Whereas the City of Corcoran finds it important to recognize the work of the city's police department, and whereas the National Police Week is May 5th through 11th, 2024, and whereas as part of National Police Week, efforts are recognized within the city's police department staff and includes areas of public safety administration, detective, police officers, community service officers, and reserve officers. And whereas the city recognizes the efforts made enacting the city's vision and goals while providing protection for the residents of Corcoran, excellent enforcement of federal and state statutes and Corcoran City Code, and dedicated community service. And whereas the City of Corcoran recognizes the time, energy, and dedication provided by the city's police department. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Corcoran, the City Council hereby honors police department staff and recognizes National Police Week. And I think that kind of summers it, if anyone has any comments.
Can I make a
Sure,
comment?
go for it.
We had the Northwest, we honored first responders on Tuesday,
Yes.
and it was amazing. Corcoran was well represented, and I feel like in Corcoran, we don't need a National Police Week. In Corcoran, every single year is a Corcoran Police Year. It's a different vibe here, I get. Our citizens love our police, and I think our police love them back. And it's good to actually make a proclamation, but I feel like we don't need to set aside
Just
time
Yeah.
to honor our police, because I think we do it in our actions, and they do it with their actions every single day.
Well said. Anything else?
I concur strongly. We are fortunate to have the men and women that are doing their jobs. Appreciate it very much, all of you guys.
I would say don't watch the proclamation to see the value of a city that they place on their police, watch their actions. And there's been a lot of action that we've taken over the last several years to try to show our police how much we appreciate what they do for us and the manner in which they do it. So thank you, Matt. Thank you to their officers who may be listening.
Well said.
Mayor, if I could make one comment to go with Councilmember Bonham. On Tuesday, for just residents to be aware, 4 of our officers were recognized at that awards ceremony for saving Corcoran residents' lives. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Sergeant Dan Wilcox, Officers Jesse Olson and Darren Bolson, and Reserve Officer Steve Emerson, who were recognized at that ceremony for going above and beyond and taking care of our citizens.
Thank you for the kind words, and I know every one of our officers will tell you they're honored to serve the community, and they're proud of the community they're serving. So, thank you.
Fortunate to have the group we do.
Mhm.
Okay. on to item 7B, which is a presentation regarding Hennepin County Natural Resources Partner Coalition. I will turn this over to Ken first, and then, perfect, right by here.
Okay, Mayor, Council, staff, for the record, my name is Ken Gunther. I am Corcoran's Commissioner on the Elm Creek Watershed Commission. I'm here tonight to introduce Karen Gallus, who's with Hennepin County. Karen manages natural resources staff in Hennepin County's Department of Environment and Energy and manages all roles and responsibilities related to the county's role as a soil and water conservation district. Karen and her team are responsible for water resources, habitat and wildlife conservation, community forestry, wetland protection, and aquatic invasive species prevention. Hennepin's conservation staff have been active in promoting and supporting private land conservation, particularly in the Rush Creek watershed, in partnership with the Elm Creek Watershed Management Commission, and assisting city staff with conservation questions or concerns as they may arise. So that's the written word. The off-the-script word is that in the 5 or 6 years I've been on the commission, I've seen a distinct, what I perceive to be shift in the mission and the philosophy with Hennepin County in that it serves, in the support role that it serves and is there to serve for our community. They've been involved in all sorts of projects in the western part of Hennepin County, and I think the old days of the carrot approach to conservation have gone. I think, or excuse me, the stick, all I've seen is carrot.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
She probably appreciates it.
Yeah, John knows what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Anybody who remembers sort of watershed-related matters from maybe 20 years ago knows that it was mostly enforcement and mostly mandate.
I was on the watershed for 3 years before I was on city council.
So it's encouraging to see that shift, and I just want to say, and Karen will get into it, but the county really is there to serve as a resource, and I want to emphasize that, and every time I come up here, I'm going to emphasize it, because I think that's an opportunity for the city, and it's just a matter of looking for the collaborations and the partnerships and the opportunities. So with that, I'll turn over to Karen.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Mayor Curie, council members, and thanks to city staff too, who are instrumental in bringing me here today. Later on your agenda, there is a request for a letter of support for a grant proposal. This is kind of the motivating factor in coming here today, but I did want to provide a little bit of additional context around the grant proposal and the reason we wrote it, which relates directly back to what Ken mentioned off script, which is our role serving residents and really kind of leaning into the carrot and the practical approach of like getting good conservation done and leveraging the opportunities we have to do that. So just want to talk a little bit about a concept called the Natural Resources Partner Coalition, which is a coalition that doesn't quite exist yet, but is kind of coming into reality soon over the next few months, we hope. If you move a little forward. Yeah. So this idea has evolved over many years of conversations between Hennepin County Environment and Energy and the Three Rivers Park District, and really started from a set of conversations about almost 20 years ago. Hennepin County Conservation District worked with communities like Corcoran to do natural resources inventory. So we were kind of talking about like maybe it's time to update some of those data. That turned into a much bigger conversation about how we really get practical conservation work done and how little of the opportunities are on public land and how few of those we control as public entities. So the big goal evolved to be elevating the role of natural resources and ensuring that our county remains resilient, healthy, and thriving. And really developed a shared vision towards like turning challenges into opportunities, particularly as those relate to being able to get conservation and natural resource preservation to happen in concert with development and investment guided by market forces. So a few of those kind of opportunities that were identified include just cooperating on shared priorities, being aware of when those exist and making sure that we're working together, not in competition with each other. Leveraging private investment and market forces to advance local natural resource priorities, which is, I think is something Corcoran is doing like really, really well. Recognizing that natural resource professionals are not always our audience, that's our choir. And thinking of planners, investors, decision makers, policymakers as a key audience and user group of preservation tools, training and support resources in order to protect and preserve these opportunities when they exist and when it makes sense. And just doing a better job of forming a business case for natural resource preservation and ensuring that there are opportunities for that to pencil out for the people who are making those investments. I think you all know this much better than I do, but rapidly growing communities like Corcoran are really what we hope to be one of the primary beneficiaries of the work that will be done here. It's a tale of the oldest time. That working with investors to really align with the community's vision or to incorporate elements that protect and improve natural resources takes resources that don't exist until the tax base exists. And so it's this chicken or an egg situation. And what we hope to build through the grant proposal that we're talking about is really resources to make that easier for communities like Corcoran and others. So the Natural Resource Partner Coalition is setting out to do 6 main things: improve locally driven and accessible data, create a countywide natural resources priority and opportunity map that is informed by that local knowledge and data, build a collaborative framework that allows people to really focus on their jurisdictional role while learning from others and incorporating lessons that others have learned to maximize impact, developing tools that can be at the fingertips of partners when opportunities and challenges arise, sharing resources and expertise across different jurisdictional entities, and also practicing bold and courageous leadership and advocating for policies and priorities that make it easier to protect and preserve natural resources. So we kind of came up with this set of ideas about how to do this. We wanted to make sure that we weren't the only people who thought these were good ideas, so we did a set of stakeholder interviews with people from Met Councils, watersheds, tribal governments, consulting planners, local governments, and nonprofits, and asked them about some of the ideas or the challenges and the barriers that are faced. And a few themes came out of that. One is that visualization is needed to help people see what could be possible.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
What tribal government has jurisdiction in Hennepin County?
We talked to the people from the Shakopee, Midwakaton Sioux community.
Are they in Hennepin County?
They have members in Hennepin County,
Okay.
and they just have some interest and awareness of land use and issues,
Okay.
and natural resource management issues in particular, yeah.
And a lot of resources, just saying.
I mean,
I get it. That's fine.
So we kind of, the themes that came out of those conversations, and in your packet there is kind of like a bit broader description of the research work that went on here, but really we focus on visualization. People need to be able to see what's possible. Partners need to be engaged early and often to build trust, like through a coalition, and there's a real need for a regional approach to get the maximum benefit for natural resources. So I mentioned earlier, I think Corcoran is doing a really great job at a lot of these things, and just for kind of context for folks, and I'm sure you know this again far better than I do, but there is a 2008 natural resources inventory that was used and referenced in the 2030 and 2040 plans and in the Open Space and Preservation Ordinance. 2040 plan has really strong goals to preserve the highest quality natural resources as identified in that natural resource inventory, and addresses resilient stormwater management, flood mitigation, rural landscapes, agricultural preservation. These are all things that can be supported by some of the tools that we're hoping to build. So the first element of what we're hoping to do is to develop an interactive map that not only includes natural resource data sets, which is not like transformational, but also includes other relevant data sources that often aren't quite as accessible, things like planning studies, sub-watershed studies, local priorities that exist in big PDF documents but don't exist in a geospatial format where they can kind of easily be compared with other things. And then we're also working on incorporating local knowledge of threats and opportunities into that as well. So like understanding where people know that the market forces will be driving development in these areas over the next like 2 to 4 years. And so those are really good areas for us to kind of think about what might be possible if we were to have coalition around there and looking for opportunities to really enhance the public good. The other 2 elements of what we're hoping to create in the grant application is a centralized clearinghouse to share data, best practices, and guiding documents, as well as to really engage and support partners in using those data, best practices, and guiding documents. I think if you can go to the next one, Administrator. I think a great example of a best practice that would be really valuable in such a clearinghouse or a toolkit would be something about the open space and preservation plats that you do here in the city of Corcoran. Just using your development interactive map. One good example is the Heather Meadows project going on now that is preserving 44.8 acres, for future. And being able to summarize for other communities how that works, how the ordinance works, where it works best, where it doesn't work best, and how it's going to serve your community's needs for the future, I think would be a really helpful thing for other communities to learn from. And so the idea would be that we could kind of work with community like Corcoran or other to do a really good pithy summary of something like that, and then connect it back to the map in places where it would be appropriate. Yes.
Can I interrupt for a second, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
One other feature of the Corcoran system you might want to try to highlight is our updates to the planned unit development subdivision ordinance that we made about 2 years ago,
Okay.
where in order to be granted a PUD in a residential development, a developer is required to set aside a scaling percentage of land as permanently conserved open space. And I think it tops, if we don't have Natalie here, I think it tops out like 15%, and
Okay.
depending on the density of the development, it can go down from there to a certain level. But the advantage that we gain from that is if somebody needs or wants to deviate significantly from code, one of the criteria they have to satisfy is permanent preservation of open space that's accessible to the public.
Cool. And that's permanent preservation.
Correct.
Maybe
Conservation.
we want to keep that a secret to Corcoran.
I think the swans would prefer to roost where they may.
I think you're absolutely right. That's like a great example of those sorts of things that you did that and that's working well for your community and other people can learn from that. And that can be really valuable. And probably other communities are doing cool things that you would be interested in learning from too. But I think it's just really illustrates the value of being able to kind of share these sorts of things more widely.
And there would be a benefit for us if Hennepin County were to endorse a system like that and work with the Met Council so that we're not penalized on a density basis when that happens.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
We're working on that. I'm on the Met Council Land Use Advisory Committee, so we've been in concert, I think all of us have been with them, trying to incorporate some of the things that you're talking about.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, and we've been talking with them too, and there's a lot of interest from the Met Council about the work that is being proposed here.
But what you're saying, John, is true. We're working on that. But what we're working on is getting credit for higher density areas. What I'm talking about is not being penalized for low density areas.
Yeah, we're
not counterbalancing them with higher density.
totally, yeah. But at the Met Council, we have conversations about that too.
Okay.
I'm saying we, as in the Land Use Advisory Committee, is in the ear of people on the Met Council about it, because we are being penalized for practices like that.
Sorry to make this into a work session. My apologies.
Yep, it's gonna be. This is important.
Yep, Mr.
I
Mayor.
appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may add also, I don't mean anything negative by it and such, but you're missing probably the most important stakeholder ever, and it's our farmers that have been out here that has preserved all of this land, and to sit back and start telling them how to preserve, how to do things with their manure, how to do stuff. We wouldn't have what we have if we didn't have the conscientious farmers that we have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it would be nice to add another stakeholder. I don't know which one would want to be part of it because,
There are no actual citizens in your individual stakeholders.
yeah, I know. I just, the farmers, I'm one that they never get enough credit. They feed us, they do everything, and then there's a lot of people hammering on them for doing things wrongly and such. And they do a really good job, I think, doing everything they can to control runoff. Still grow crops, still grow meat for those of us that, like a good piece of meat and stuff. Just something like that. Please take them into account. They own a pretty good chunk of this little neighborhood here.
Absolutely, and
Thank
I
you.
really, I appreciate that sentiment a lot, I do, yeah. And I completely agree.
Thank you.
Are you submitting the application? How soon are you submitting the application?
We actually submitted the application at the end of March.
Okay.
And so we're still collecting letters of support and just engaging partners on the ideas. And then the hearing will be, I think it's end of June, so. The other thing I wanted to just, I described the application already pretty well.
You done
This
good.
is just like a summary of the application. I think there's just one more about, there's a workshop coming up on May 22nd as well. I believe Dwight is planning to come to that, but that is one of the places where we'll be just engaging additional partners and starting to collect some of that local knowledge and data about like what
Who's
has
coming
worked in the
from
past.
us?
Dwight.
Dwight from the plan, he's a planner.
And I would say
Why?
that we certainly welcome any other
Dwight, you've met him.
participation as
Is he a-
well, but just wanted.
Works with Natalie.
He's a
Yeah,
planner.
he's
on our
staff.
Yes.
Okay. But no citizens yet on the workshop?
No.
Just, okay. Fair enough.
I mean, I would definitely welcome citizen participation if you have a recommendation. I mean, like, a lot of this work is very kind of local government focused because it is kind of focused on like how the development occurs.
I would recommend Corinne Drummond. I think she would thrive in that environment.
Yeah.
Part of the reason this particular
I
workshop
wanna
is
check with
focused
her
on the
first
mapping
before
component,
signing
as
her.
I
I can't tell her to
understand it.
go.
Yeah.
And Dwight is our keeper of the maps.
Yeah, we-
That's why we're sending Dwight.
So
Yeah.
can we ask
You
questions,
could send
Tom?
this to Corinne.
Please.
Um,
Yeah, this is,
good
I
to
think
I gotta
that's
ask
the
Tom.
other thing.
I gotta ask Tom.
Yeah.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
So, at Land Use Advisory Committee for the Met Council,
Yeah.
I'm on it, and we have maps, proposals all the time. And we turn them down all the time. And the reason for it is, most of the time, it's a replication of existing processes. And developing, like, for example, I love it. I love the idea. I love the concept. We're nibbling at the edges here.
No, like, help me make it better, please.
So the number one priority is making a map, and the five of us could probably come up with an entire map of Corcoran for where the natural resources are, and the natural resources change all the time. We have on our natural resources map from 2008 are like ash stands, and they're all dead because of the bore. We all know where the creeks are. Like, I wish the number one priority wasn't map making. I really wish it wasn't, because I think it's a waste of money. Because when you, like, who cares if there's a, on the corner of 30 and 116, who cares if there's a nice wetland there? It costs probably $1 million to hire all the map makers to make that. If the grant's $3 million, a third of the resources goes to identifying things that are easily identifiable already on the Hennepin County maps. Don't go to projects, don't go to making things better. They just replicate something that we already know. We already know it. We don't need maps for it. That's my opinion. So I wish that priority one wasn't map making. We spend a whole bunch of money on map making. It drives me bananas. It's like make work. we should be investing in projects. And if there's, you know, a lot of money that goes into map making, and there's no projects on those maps, you know, it's a total waste of money. And then also, like, so suppose we've identified natural resources areas in Corcoran, well, what do we do with that data? So if we have, I mean, we know where the creeks are. I don't know what else we would, you know, we have oak savannas here. Potentially in, you know, 20 years, they'll not be oak savannas anymore. There's like a transitions all over. And so I wish it didn't have mapping as the #1 priority. Because it's not doing it. And I don't know what kind of information we can get from making a nice map that leads to an outcome of more natural resources for future and that kind of stuff. Maybe you can enlighten me on that. I'm open to that, but I mean, there's 15 layers of maps on the Hennepin County site, and if you pull up your own property, there's a ton, you know, because it's already there.
Could I comment from a staff and then, so part of the reason we're sending Dwight, and the reason it's helpful to us is on the planning side of things. Right now, the resources that we have don't provide all of the necessary data for us to provide you the information required to make good decisions or to hold some of our developers accountable to ensure that we're protecting these valuable resources. And so this proposal is not only information, and I agree it's constantly changing, and that's why it's important to have something that isn't from 2008, but is from 2024, that is continuously getting updated as we get better information, and multiple layers that we can't get off of our current map capability. That's the
Like
proposal
what?
as I understand it.
Like what? What would it be?
So for example, you mentioned that the wetland areas that we get are incredibly inaccurate right now. When I pull it up of the Hennepin area, if we're trying to make a proposal or some decisions off of the online web maps that we have available, it's not accurate. It's taken from a satellite. It's
Yeah.
not taken from off the ground. So that would be one example. And then the other reason why it's helpful is this collaborative best practices concept. Help us not spend a lot of staff time, energy, and money trying to solve problems that in some cases may have already been solved. And so as we look at it and it's got earmarked, here is a way to solve your problem, that helps us be more effective and efficient. So that collaboration, information shares is why we're sending Dwight and why it's attractive. And I also agree, there are a lot of good resources out there for some things, but for the natural resources part, there's a lot of room for growth for us to do better for the amount of natural resources and our intentionality as a community to protect them.
Would maps help on the sharing of ideas?
They're attaching ideas to it. That was part of the proposal.
And then, and Ken, you can maybe, oh yeah.
Oh, well, if
Sure.
it's okay.
Would you walk up to the mic so we can capture it?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to mention, it's slightly related to this. I think there are multiple pieces to the puzzle that are starting to fit together, and I view this as one of the pieces of the puzzle that the city can use to start to fit this together. I don't remember, Jay, whether we've actually scheduled yet to do a presentation on the sub-watershed assessment. So the watershed recently completed a sub-watershed assessment on the South Fork of the Rush Creek watershed, sub-watershed, which is essentially the southeastern 2/3 of Corcoran. And one of the specific reasons for doing the sub-watershed is identifying projects, both public and private projects that might be available for water quality improvement or natural resource enhancement. We view it from the water part, but they're related to the other elements of the resources. And to do a cost-benefit analysis on potential projects. But what's really significant about that assessment is that it also identifies how projects get funded and how projects get funded through via public monies and through private monies. And so that starts to tie together if we have information say from a planning standpoint, on, you know, resources that could be protected, ideas on protecting them, then the watershed, sub-watershed assessment comes in and helps plan, you know, are projects feasible, are they worthwhile if they're feasible? You know, it might help guide the city on if we're gonna prioritize certain types of projects in the community, natural resource projects, where and when and how would we want to do it? It's really just building the information set to kind of approach those questions. So that's an added feature, and it is, like I say, sort of, it's not directly part of this puzzle, but it's related. And I think we were gonna try and schedule something sometime this summer for staff to come in and present that to the city, so the city sees that tool that's available as well.
Can I, as long as you're on the mic, I was gonna address you anyways in my questions. It seems like there's a match, 200 grand, and they're expecting a match from community of 100 grand, or what was the local partners part?
Yeah, I'm not the money guy. on
So,
this one.
so,
You're gonna have to
so,
ask her.
okay, I'm gonna ask a question related to what you're talking about.
But I do promise you, when we come in and present the sub-watershed assessment
Yeah.
report, we are also gonna talk about all of the grant funding. The watershed itself has created a pool of money every year for local projects. And both private landowners and the cities themselves are eligible for those projects. They're designed for smaller scale, shorter term, less planning involved types of projects. And it was really an effort by the watershed to try and put more money back available to the smaller projects that usually don't get the big
Yeah.
play. I
So-
mean, you know.
Yeah, so I got a question on that. So, oftentimes, the watershed, when faced with a decision on where they'd spend their money, this is back in the day, they would say, oh, there's a project in Corcoran that could make a huge impact. Let's call it it's 100 on the scale of impact. We could spend money up there, or there's a project in Maple Grove that has a 20 on impact, but Maple Grove is willing to stick 50 grand in the kitty because they have a $160 million budget. Corcoran, although their project is 100 on the scale of impact, well, they can't put in 50 grand because their budget's 8 million and they can't afford it. So we're going to go the Maple Grove route and do less impactful projects. But since we have to spend less and the city will put more in, like we have a problem out here in Hennepin County of, Hennepin County doesn't spend anything on Corcoran. And so like, I would hate to say, yeah, we're all in on this, and then see projects go to, like we have a ton of open space here. If I'm Hennepin County and I'm realistically looking at where they can make the biggest impact, I don't think that it should be in Golden Valley. They don't have anything left to save.
So let me jump in.
That's what I want you to do.
I know that's your perception, Councilmember Bob.
It was.
And I know where that comes
It's changing.
from. And I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you today that that's changed.
Good.
Okay? You've described a problem that existed, and a number of, what I would say collectively, we've been working at overcoming that. So that's part of the value of the sub-watershed assessment, is it helps create a ranking tool that both the watershed and the local communities can use to decide where should we put our energy? Where are we gonna get the most bang for our buck? And if we decide we're gonna put it over there, what are the resources available? And there just simply is more money available for the type of stuff you're talking about that used to not get funded.
Yeah. So it's
But
changed.
that's gonna be a different presentation.
Yeah, I just don't want to support something that we don't benefit from. And that historically, that's kind of been a little bit of the case. And I was there when they started transitioning a little bit more, and you kind of pushed them on the watershed, like beyond what I would have been able to do. And it sounds like what you're saying is that there's a new flavor.
Yeah, well, and I think if it makes you feel any better, I think what we're seeing is funds, at least at the watershed level, and I can't speak for Hennepin County, but I can speak for the watershed. We're getting financial support from communities to the east in projects that are taking place in Corcoran.
That's good. Okay. Thank you. That's why I asked you, and that helps you. Thank you. So I ask questions, that doesn't mean I'm against it. I need clarification on some of the issues that we've had before.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Right now. Do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Okay. Perfect.
What's the
Any-
call to action? We have a,
We have something.
Yeah,
in
we
our
do.
consent.
It's in
Resolution of
consent.
support?
It would be essentially approving the letter of support.
okay, very good.
I'm glad you came in, both of you, thank you.
Oh, appreciate it.
Jeremy, it's up on the board.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll move on to consent agenda, which consists of items 7A through 7J.
Can we
Is any-
pull F, please,
Sure.
since they're here?
Not anymore.
Never mind then.
Okay, not full F. Okay.
I wanted them to get the satisfaction of their own vote.
We can send him a clip.
Yeah.
Anything else or anything to be pulled? Nope. Okay. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through J.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Planning business, we have none. Enjoy it because next time we will have not none.
I saw the packet.
Changing.
What's that? D?
It's changing.
Oh yeah. Next one could be a big one. Unfinished business. We have a public comment opportunity for items 9A, 9B, and 9C. So if anyone would like to speak on those items, please come on up to the podium. And if not, then we will move right on to item 9A, and JCB is going to walk us through this.
Yes, I am. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I'm here to discuss potential next steps for city park planning. While working with HKGI, city staff and their staff have developed a site analysis followed by really honing in on those concept plans. So renditions of these plans have been seen by staff during a few Parks and Trails Commission meetings, and then the joint work session at the end of April. At this point, staff from the city and HKGI feel that the planning process has reached the schematic design phase. As part of this, involvement from architectural and civil engineering teams is required for next steps. Included in that is surveying and staking, geotech, building programming study, and a wetland delineation. Estimated costs from HKGI is approximately $175,025 for all of that. Keeping in mind those are preliminary estimates, and that's including the quotes for surveying and staking, geotech, wetland delineation, and then the building programming study is included in that schematic design of $113,025 of that $175,000. So at this time, staff is looking for a motion to proceed with the schematic design phase at an approximate cost of $113,025 rather than that $175,000 that's listed in the packet, which brings me to that was the update. And as part of that, we'd like to move forward and then come back with quotes for the geotech, surveying, and wetland delineation, because we'd like to explore some alternative options, such as working with our in-house consultant for engineering, Stantec, to see if that would be a cheaper option. Just trying to find where we can save money as much as possible.
That's great. Can you give me that number again, 113?
Yes, so 11325. It's on page 5 of, in
Page
the
one.
packet, the attachment.
It's up on the screen right now, Mayor.
Perfect, thank you.
It's this one right here.
Gotcha.
Can we ask a question?
Yes, please.
Well, I'm open to hearing if the rep from Parks and Trails has something to say about it.
He's on the line.
He's online.
Oh, okay. But,
But Michelle's also on Parks and Trails.
yeah, so the question I would have is, how long does the, if we do the next level, which is, we're gonna do watershed assessments, right? Part of it,
The wetland delineation?
wetland delineation, that
Yes, but
stuff.
we'd come back with a quote for that once we have the final.
Totally get it, yep. how long are they good for?
We did one, but it's not good anymore. is
Yeah.
my
It's
understanding.
expired.
Yeah.
So the reason why I ask is, I would caution council that if you don't want to go forward with this project, that we don't do a bunch of stuff that will expire. So it's almost like if we commit to going to the next step, we're committing to doing the project because
To
we,
some extent, yeah.
yeah, so be careful with your votes that we don't spend, if you're not planning on voting to proceed with the project, don't vote tonight.
We do have two funds that we've received, both $300,000 in a grant and then most recently $500,000 in the community from federal that we are going to have to spend that are for this project.
Yeah.
So
I'm planning on voting yes, but I'm
Well,
saying,
that was gonna be my next question, does anyone
Yeah.
have major reservations, but I feel like we're pretty on
I'm just
board
saying,
that
yes.
a park project is happening.
remember all the road studies we did where people would say yes to the road studies and then the road studies would be done and people would vote no and then we'd basically blow $100,000 on a
think
road
that
I
was
think
study.
that
before
might
our
be
time.
because people would come in mass upset about it.
Totally get it.
Whereas this, people come in mass or call me
Hey,
in mass and say, when's that park happening?
I'm just putting in a threat of caution.
Yep,
If you
fair
don't like
enough.
the park, don't vote for these steps.
Fair enough.
I wholeheartedly support moving forward with a park. My only concern would be, we can't do this park and we get stuck if we're not going to have the budget to do this one because it's the most expensive. But I think we have enough things in the hopper that we'll probably be able to finish it, so I don't have reservations at this time.
And one of the things, if you recall, that they did propose in the work session was a phased version of the plan. And so it's kind of eating the elephant one bite at a time. So we may not be able to do the large vision that we have, but we'll be able to progress towards achieving that vision with the resources that we have in a fashion.
And we'll be able to tell that as we get closer. If Hope comes in with multiple phases, that's a significant amount of park dedication. If another federal funding comes in, if other final plats come in, we might be able to do that whole thing or a good chunk of it.
And we did just hear
Off the
from Congressman Dean Phillips' office that we went for against some. So we're going forward with a grant for the building and some of this. We'll see how it votes, but another potential $3.5 million for this park in federal funding.
Props
We
to-
voted for you. We voted yay.
And props to Jay and JCB for, I got that to them because Phillips's office got it to me about 2 or 3 days ahead of the deadline. Said, if we think we can make something work, understand if we can't, because it's kind of last minute, and hold it together. So
Would that have gotten through 5 years ago with that kind of turnaround?
I was
Okay.
here, so yeah. I wanted to note, Natalie did contact me. She said 5 years for the wetland delineation.
Okay.
Okay.
Deal. Okay.
Phil is available if you want any questions. He also texted us.
Any questions for Phil?
No, if he had a comment, I think we're all like in agreement.
We're
I
in,
think so,
I'm in.
Yeah, we're all in.
Perfect.
I'll make a motion to approve staff to proceed with phase 1 schematic design of city park as described in the scope of work to include the following A, B, C, D.
Second.
Just a clarifying, hopefully friendly potential amendment,
Yep.
as JCB laid out with the 113, and then we'll
Yes,
come back with
the
the other
less
items.
expensive version of the cost
Perfect.
analysis.
Does that make
Thank
sense,
you, Mayor.
Michelle?
Friendly amended second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Perfect, that carries.
Thank you for saving city money.
I do what I can.
We can put in some extra slides or dinosaurs or something.
Exactly, you get it. Bigger splash pad, you know.
There you go.
Tractor,
Okay.
tractor things.
We'll have a carbonated splash pad now.
Carbonated splash, I don't know if we want that.
That sounds so gross.
It really does. Okay, item 9B, which is to appoint and fill the council vacancy that our dear friend Alan left us last month.
Thanks a lot, Alan.
You think he's tuned in? There's no way he is.
Probably not. He's probably enjoying
He
it.
did show up at the cleanup day.
He was at cleanup day.
And I reminded him that he wasn't eligible because he's no longer a resident. But
Yeah.
But we took his trash anyway.
Seems fair. He's done.
Parting gift.
He's done a little bit for the city. Okay, so in terms of filling the council vacancy, we do have 3 candidates. I think you're all familiar with all of the candidates. I think, just to say that they're all interested and good candidates with really the only qualifications that you want to, baseline qualifications that you want to serve, and I think that's the case with all 3 of these candidates. In terms of process, Jay and I were speaking, and I think you probably have them in front of you. We have a ballot here. If you list your top candidate or rank your candidates, then we'll hand it in to Jay, and then Jay will get me the results, and we'll take it from there in terms of the appointment. If it's a majority, if it's not, then I'll deal with the next steps according to statute.
Wait, can we talk about it first?
Sure, if you want.
You handed in already?
Oh, well, I don't know, I think we should talk about it.
Sure.
Talk about our decision process and what we think, I don't know. We haven't had the opportunity to talk about it yet, have
Yeah.
we, as a council?
I think the challenge is it would necessitate discussing the pros and cons of volunteers, which we don't
Yeah.
like to do. What Jay explained to me is the process this way, we can talk about the overall top pick and not have to subject the other 2 to discussion.
My thoughts were, if we're gonna get a clear majority, then we're on the same page. If not, then we probably will have some discussion.
Fair enough.
Does that work for you?
I guess, yeah, let's see if,
You tore your ballot up, didn't you?
it's a hanging chat at this point.
Oh, no.
Where'd it go?
I
That's
don't have
mine.
any tape.
I have an extra one.
Oh, do you have an extra?
I can-
There it is. Keep
Where?
digging.
See it?
Keep digging. I thought I did.
You just had it.
Gotta watch for you all the time.
This is how life works for me.
I'll take it.
Here you go, Tom. Here you go, Jay.
You literally just had it. I saw it.
That's right.
Bottom.
Yeah. At the bottom. It's always in the last place you look. So why would you keep looking?
I like that saying.
Alrighty, and we will await Jay's favorite thing, mathing in public.
Yeah. No pressure, doing math.
You've got a spreadsheet up.
Put my finance manager hat back
Yeah.
on again.
Yeah, you should be able to do it.
He found it.
Because
Thanks,
you left,
Michelle.
he found it.
Sorry to
Ooh,
make
give
you
me
work.
another one.
Vote early, vote
Vote early, vote often. Are we in trouble? Those 2 guys been standing out there all meeting.
Yeah, they might come tackle you when you leave.
Are they protecting the outside from us?
I'm not sure.
be
Probably
the wolf.
protecting each other from each other.
How are you on your taxes?
I paid more than my share. Right along with everybody else, right?
Does that mean you checked the $3 presidential election contribution box?
Evidently didn't check enough things because I owed a ton.
Was there a box that said someone else?
So just to clarify, for the person who was voted in first place, we gave them 3 points. Second place got 2 points. Third place got 1 point.
Wait, what?
That
We were
way-
supposed to rank them?
Yes,
I did not rank them.
I noticed, but that's
Okay.
okay.
You don't have to.
You translated it?
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay, and with that, we have a clear majority of Commissioner Mark Lanterman. So I would make the motion to appoint Commissioner Lanterman to the city council vacancy for a term, I don't have the dates handy,
Through 2026.
No.
No, it says got
till
a special
November.
election
Oh,
till
sorry,
November.
through November 5th.
I don't want him that
He
long.
gets a longer term than anyone here.
being sworn in at the next
Somebody-
meeting
we haven't had
through,
elections lately.
as soon as the election results are certified.
Yes, that week of November 5th.
Yes, so that's my motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to talk,
I want to compliment them,
Yeah, go right
Um,
ahead.
but I feel like one person didn't get back to me at
Okay.
all, and one person that I spoke to was super impressive.
Okay,
And so I don't want to disclose, I don't want to say negative things about.
fair enough.
But
I
if-
can say if you'd wanna follow up to me.
sure,
Three very good candidates. The one that we chose, it's unanimous. I'm thankful for that. It could have been a long night. The other two, one is already serving, which is great. The other one, with this vacancy that we take from the planning commission, I would love to see that person apply.
And I did actually ask that candidate if they were interested in any other future opportunities such as commissions, and they said absolutely. Their schedule just kind of changed recently to
Yep.
where they can be more involved, and this was what was available right now. But they are more than interested in serving in a commission
I had
capacity as well.
had a great conversation with each and every one of them. And we are lucky to have the citizens we have here, and lucky to have the three people that stepped up. I do not want to deter them or anything. Jeremy and I talked to the other two together, and then I talked to one of them probably hour and a half on his sidewalk outside his house. So I had a little bit more time with that applicant, but great folks. Congratulations, Mark. Look forward to digging into some stuff with you, so.
Perfect.
awesome.
Congratulations. Did we, no, we didn't take a vote on that, so, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Mayor, if I could follow up with a question, just clarification or some guidance on how you'd like us to proceed with the vacant commission seat in terms of advertising it?
Yeah, I'd
Let's
say.
post it for a month.
Yeah, I'd say.
So one of the challenges that we have is
Now,
we have some
which
timelines, so we
media-
currently have a quorum, and I wish Natalie were here, so that the,
Is online, I thought. She's online if you have a
Okay.
question.
and so, I would like it to be a month, and also just want to acknowledge that we have some big deal things coming up for the planning commission. We have a joint session coming up on the 21st, and we have some training.
Unfortunately, Mark can kind of still be there regardless.
And we have some critical
That's actually on
training
the
coming up
21st.
for the planning commission that's scheduled. And so I just want to be sensitive to the fact that this is a critical role for the community. And if we have some potential good candidates, I agree a month would be ideal, and with the pressing issue, but we do have a planning commissioner here. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, a question I had would be, does he serve in both capacities? As far as being the chair of the planning commission, what does that mean, after he's inducted next
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can, but also I was thinking, because that work session is actually before our next council meeting, he won't be sworn in yet.
Okay, so that helps for the work session. It doesn't help us for training that's
When-
scheduled.
When's the training?
I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe Natalie can respond to that question.
Okay.
I was just meeting with her earlier this week to try and do the long-term schedule and trying to think through contingency planning, just
then
in case.
In terms of selecting a new chair after
Yeah.
he's on council, that would be up to you guys, to vote on, within the commission. So
Yeah, because we'd probably need to appoint an interim.
you could do that, and then when you have a full, commission, you could then have a vote on a
Because
permanent chair.
when will he be sworn in? Because our planning commission meeting will take place before that.
No,
No.
Yeah.
Well, the joint work session will.
joint
Right,
work
but
session.
not our
The next
regular
planning commission meeting will be June
She
6th.
said no, it wouldn't be.
Do you, how long have you been on planning?
Not.
Long enough.
So we have a vice chair that I would presume would be stepping up
Yes.
in the role.
Robin.
So Corinne would be
And
stepping
I
up.
have spoken to her, and she's, obviously will, dependent on support from the group, willing to step into that, role going forward, so.
So can I speak about that?
Okay.
Sure.
So, when I first got on council and until not too long ago, I don't think anyone here was on that served in that capacity, but the planning commission meetings were long, and honestly, people weren't prepared, and their role was unclear, and it was like I wouldn't be on planning commission in those days. It was hard, so it was. I knew you weren't a part of it. The planning commission serves a super critical role to what we do. They give us advice, and they're a screen, and we need to have quality people there and have it be a quality process. And we can't kill the people on the planning commission by having the meetings go from 7 at night till 1 in the morning. And that happened all the time, and it ended up making the process terrible. And then we didn't get good information because it was just not very effective. So whatever happens from this point going forward, we gotta make sure that not only do we have the right people there, the right process, the right understanding, and it'll make it enjoyable for you folks, but also what the product that you deliver is gonna be so much better. So I just wanna make sure that
Yeah.
that gets
I think that's
addressed.
something to keep in mind, and also, was Alan
He was a previous commissioner.
well, yes. but
Oh, he was
he
appointed to the.
Was he a
planning commission.
liaison
Yes, he was a liaison.
to
Correct, he was.
planning now? By himself, or was that split?
No, with Dean.
So maybe one option would be to have Mark and Dean split those duties, and that way Mark can also kind of be there
Mark
to-
had made those comments that he would like to split, and I'm willing to do that.
Perfect.
If he runs into something, as I did with Alan, I
Yeah.
would cover.
Be flexible.
We'd take care of the planning commission.
Perfect. Well, I think that's a good idea.
Based on the feedback, Mayor, if I might suggest, we did get some feedback. The training is actually going to be delayed until July.
Okay.
So that will
That's
help
good.
us. That gives us some time. And so I would recommend that we do a 1-month recruitment process. We can post it tomorrow and start to get the
Yeah.
word out on social media in order to try and get, we have some candidates that might be interested. Someone met with me earlier this week that expressed interest as well with the potential of a vacancy. And so that would give us time to do the process, and as applications come in, we'll share them with you so that you can meet with those potential candidates. And that first meeting then, roughly 1 month from now, so what is right after the 9th, do you have the May meeting?
June 13th.
Sorry, the June meeting,
June
so the 9th would be the
Yeah.
13th?
meeting and
Then if I could do one more thing too, those applicants, make sure they call us back. If they're interested, putting in their name is different than
And that's
putting
hard
in
for
their
staff
name
to
and
do.
and being in a contact, so.
Are you talking about my situation?
Any one of us. I want the folks to understand, if we call them, leave them a message and make sure they call us back.
I've had good success for what it's worth emailing to set up a time.
Yep.
So with that, Mayor, I'd recommend that we advertise it until June 9th, or sorry, correction, June 10th, because that would be 1 month from tomorrow. We'll advertise it tomorrow. And then we'd have results to vote on June 13th meeting.
I will be out June 13th, just for whatever it's worth.
Okay.
I'm
And
only
then,
one vote.
and then one clarifying question in terms of
We'll have-
practice that's not clear to me. I would presume then that it would be understood that Mr. Lanterman would not be returning to the commission when his time as an appointee to the council. If we're appointing someone else to a commission seat, is that a temporary seat or is that a permanent seat? We need to be clear in our advertisement.
I would think it's a permanent seat, and unless, circumstances change, if,
He can
He's-
reapply. I mean, that's the
Right,
way it
it-
was when I got appointed to this.
I'm
It wouldn't
just,
be
I'm
set
just wanting to
aside-
be clear as we're
it wouldn't be
soliciting
set aside like we
applications.
did with Parks and Trails with Commissioner Anderson.
he did that, so he served on council
Right.
and then returned to the commission.
Right, I'm saying it wouldn't be like that, because I think they have more flexibility being a 7-member body to
Okay.
do that. So it wouldn't be like that, but let's say in 8 months, if Mark's not on council and he wants to apply and there's a vacancy, he could apply like anyone else could, and
Cause that's the way it was when I got appointed, it was,
I don't think it should
I
prohibit.
Can I
just
go
wanted to
back
clarify
there? Yeah.
practice, because as we get questions in terms of
Yep.
what the term will be, we need to clarify the term when we advertise it.
Yeah, I think it'd be just normal process
Okay.
and, you know, typically we've been for whatever reason, you know,
3 years.
good, bad, or indifferent, a lot of times we're not seeing the end of the term, we're seeing people serve for a while and then step down, so vacancies happen.
So to revisit, we will advertise tomorrow for 1 month until June 10th. We'll bring it to council for a decision on June 13th. We'll advertise it as a 3-year term appointee to the planning commission.
Sounds good. And, that one
And are
candidate,
you contacting Graham around running our next
3
planning
years.
meeting as interim chair?
Natalie is tracking,
Okay.
and so we'll make sure that Natalie handles that.
Okay.
perfect. Okay,
All right.
Jeremy.
I'd like to propose at our
I got it
first
now.
meeting in June, we create a policy for how we'll respond to council vacancies in the future, so that we can just break that out the next time somebody resigns, and
Okay.
it'll be a more streamlined, efficient process.
Okay. I think we can do that. Not sure exactly what the agenda looks like right now for that, but I would think we could get that on there.
probably
Yeah.
could end up being a consent deal, we could pull it. If
Was
we
it-
had questions.
I want to just clarify one thing.
Sure.
I'm not against that. Did we follow the policy, did we follow the recommended process from,
We didn't follow our normal process for commissions, and we don't have a practice for council.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should get one then.
Yeah, so that's what,
So we'll pull it and clarify it. We've also been talking about our commissioner handbook is probably due for a refresh and a relook.
you did.
We will not have that for you on June 13th, but it is definitely something that we need to put on the agenda.
Good.
Perfect. Okay. Alrighty, then we'll move on
Thank you.
to 9C.
Mr.
which
Mayor,
we-
real quick,
Hold on a
I'll
second.
congratulate you now that
Yes.
the vote's
Yeah,
been done and everything else.
Congratulations.
Officially, well, on the 21st,
Yes.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, 7 PM.
5 PM, work session.
No work session, easy
Can't be,
planning.
Oh, that's fine.
yeah.
But you
He
gotta
still
be
needs
there
to be
anyway.
here for that, but
5 PM?
5:30.
5:30.
On what day?
Tuesday,
Tuesday, the
May
21st.
21st.
Oh, my
We're gonna
goodness.
move that from a Thursday due to quorum reasons.
All right.
And John, or go ahead.
I'm gonna make a motion,
Okay,
since we moved on. I'm gonna make a motion for option 1 on 9C. We've discussed this multiple times in council, and it's written very clear.
okay. Do we have a second?
I have a second, but questions.
Okay, discussion. Dean?
The K-9 officer would end up getting a take-home car, obviously, and such. Do we have something stating limited mileage away, having to be a certain distance?
Yes, so we had well, there's a couple of questions within that question.
Yep, then I got another one to follow up, so.
Sure. So, two parts to that. One, when we initially did the program, we looked at their ability for call-outs and response.
Yeah.
Through practice, we found that we didn't have a lot of call-outs because we were utilizing other on-duty K-9s in the county when possible, as opposed to calling them out.
Okay,
So the absolute need for a response from home was reduced, but
okay,
as far as the city equipment goes, yes, we have a mileage restriction that would be in play there. What that looks like in the application of that, it would depend on the candidate that was selected if that would apply.
okay. And is there any more talk about our officers having take-home vehicles? This
No.
doesn't set a precedence, nothing there. We had it before with Zeke and Clay and stuff, and, okay, all right. And then the next thing, I didn't want our canine friend coming all the way here to not be able to speak. Is there
I do have a question for him.
outstanding?
Sure, if you want, I can kind of kick off the topic,
Sure.
give you a real brief overview and then kind of open it up for questions.
And then we'll remember we
as
have a
it relates
motion
to
in a
what it looks
second.
like. So,
Yep.
Back to it.
looking back, you'll recall that this.
Wait, can we already made, do we have to have an overview? We've overviewed this program.
If you wanna go straight to questions, I can.
Yes.
You can skip me.
Please.
Let's do straight to questions then. If you could introduce maybe.
All right, Mark McDonough's nice enough to share his Thursday.
And I'm not trying to disrespect you.
No, not at
You know
all.
that I like to vote. If we have all the information on which to make a decision.
I still want,
Yeah.
Yeah.
love to meet Mark.
Mark, if you could.
If you'd be
Hey, if
willing-
you could come up. I love that. If you could come on up to the podium, just state your name for the record, and then we might have a couple questions for you. I just have one minor one, if you don't mind, but if you could state your name for the record.
Mark McDonough.
Perfect, thank you. My only question was, in your recommendation, was to continue with the dual-trained canine, which I think Zeke was the apprehension and narcotics detection, and just, if you could explain a little bit of why that's your recommendation.
When you use a dual purpose, you have, obviously, there's multiple things you can do. If you pinpoint yourself down to just one function, that's all you're gonna get out of a deal. You know, in today's world, as you can tell by the media and how things have been happening, unfortunately, right now, we're in the most violent time for law enforcement. So to give that tool to the police department is probably the smartest decision you could make. It's gonna keep the officers safe and the citizens safe.
Gotcha, and regarding narcotics detection, is it relatively, I'm assuming there's some sort of non-training, or maybe just going forward with ups for certain states for marijuana now that it's
We don't
legalized?
train in marijuana.
Okay, gotcha.
No more?
We just do all the hard drugs. Yeah.
No more?
Sounds,
No, unless it was gonna be for a jail facility where they have
right,
absolutely zero tolerance, but, we don't hardly ever do that anymore.
Got it.
makes sense.
Because you don't wanna have that come back and,
Yep.
you know, if they say it's legal, then you have that problem. So we haven't done that for probably 6-7 years, probably.
Gotcha. Any other questions?
Have we already created a policy for what happens to the canine if the officer departs? Or does that still need to be done?
So I've had conversations with our city attorney on it. As we talked through it, you know, one of the things that he recommended was, you know, we could potentially have the officer sign an acknowledgement. We don't, an agreement isn't necessary, I guess, if you create an agreement, it would open it up saying that that there's some,
They had some right?
that there is some right that exists, and that's not the case. I think the concern would be is that we don't want to limit the city's ability to analyze the specific facts of the specific case, because it's gonna be very fact-dependent on when it's the right time for a canine to retire or to continue working, and what the circumstances surrounding that might be. And if we create a policy to try and guess what that's gonna look like, it inevitably might not be accurate when we get there. However, you know, it certainly can't hurt to outline an acknowledgement saying, you know, the clarification that this is, you know, this is a city resource, this is how we intend to use it, this is how we
Maybe
intend to manage it.
that's the best course, that we make sure we do that, make it clear, you know, so that in 6 months or a year, we're not getting a request to retire.
Don't we already have that?
Yeah, and I don't think, I think in the past instances where we've had to address that, that was never really disputed, either, you know, it was never in dispute as far as an entitlement, it was usually a request, and I think
Right.
that's,
Just to set the expectation.
Do we have an officer picked out?
we have not held a process.
Yeah,
yet.
but it's a selection process with potential interested candidates coming up.
So if an officer is watching this city council meeting, please don't expect to take the dog with you.
I liked the concept we had kicked around of a prorated buyout value. If somebody's gonna leave to go to another department or to retire and they wanna take the dog with them, they pay the prorated value of the canine as an asset.
How do you come up with that, though?
It's tricky, but there are ways, but I think that maybe applies more to if they're trying to take the canine to then continue working for another department, in particular. That's maybe something we could look into, something we shouldn't hopefully have to deal with for a bit here, so we would have some time to develop that process.
We can't write it to just say you're
No
here,
way,
and
'cause
you're
it-
here until the dog retires. Can-
Somebody would exploit that loophole. All of a sudden, you got an officer and a canine trained. Oh, let's hire that guy. Oh, how much is it to buy that out? Okay, we'll just do that. Now we have our canine program, but we don't have to do what Corcoran did in their canine
Right.
program.
Yeah, well, and it wouldn't be saying, hey, you can just buy it out, and the council has to approve it then. It would be
I
if
know,
the
but it's
council
like
were
the
to do
door
it.
is open.
Yeah. I think it's a discussion we can have at another
If I
time.
was on some some other city council ought to exploit the crap out of it.
And that's kind of where the conversation with our city attorney went, is that it could go in both directions, that your facts can change, that it might be time, one canine, the working life of a canine can be very different, depending on, it can be animal, dog specific, and I know Mark's more qualified than I am to talk about that, but, there might be one dog that's, maybe reached the end of their service life a year or two earlier than another one. The value, it's not static necessarily based on the circumstances change so much, and I think as soon as we do that, it actually puts us in more of a corner than it gives us a
Mr.
road
Mayor?
out.
Yes.
Mark, if I can ask, how many dogs have you trained
800.
for this? On the button, not plus or minus or anything? About 800?
It's over 800 dollars.
Okay. Have you seen
What you're just talking
any
about.
situations like what we got?
Yes, very many.
I bet.
Okay.
And he's actually helped weigh in on
You're
both times that
jumping
came
in
up.
and helping
I
us?
can tell you, if you want me to weigh in here, that the animal belongs to you. No matter which office you pick, it doesn't matter, it belongs to you. I see this happen very, very often, where we'll have people that want to jump from department to department, and like you're saying, they want to take the dog with them. That's a no-go.
Yeah.
Unless the dog has reached an age where you, like the chief would go, we're not going to get much more life out of him. Then you guys can decide what the value would be.
Yeah.
Commonly, when it's an older dog, it's usually $1.
Dollar.
And I think if you're willing, I know I believe last 2 times this came up, you did weigh in on kind of looking at Zeke's health and age and everything.
Yeah, if
Um,
the dog was 4 or something,
Right.
it still has some value.
I think if you'd be willing to do that in the future, if it ever came up,
Sure.
I think I found that incredibly valuable information, so,
So I have a hunting dog,
yeah.
and totally not the same, but the first 2 years I put in 15 minutes a night with my hunting dog, doing all the stuff. And I set an alarm and I do it. So like I don't, how do you put a value on,
It's tough.
like if my dog's name is Megan, she's 11. When she's like 4, there's 2 years of training, the purchase, all the stuff, you finally got a dog and it's prime. I don't know how much you would have had to pay me to buy me out on my just a normal hunting dog. It's a fortune because it's
Yeah.
my time, and the
Right.
officer puts in a bunch of time on our dime training
Right.
our dog. Then we got so much
It'd be,
in front.
it'd
These
be
are
very
so front
complicated.
end loaded.
it'd be
It's
very
crazy.
complicated. But yeah, I think that's something we could discuss at a later date if we wanted to, but yeah, I don't think there's nothing we're coming up with tonight that
Yeah.
could address that.
And Megan is not. No one could pay me enough to take Megan
Oh
from
yeah,
me today.
my two poorly trained dogs. There's not enough money in the world to buy them from me. Although I do know that my French bulldog Ella will be pretty upset that we decided to go forward with a canine and not consider her, because
Oh yeah.
she's been at the door every time an officer comes by, particularly Pete for some reason. She just goes bananas when Pete comes. So
She auditioning?
I think she was.
Is that after he visits my dog?
She
and
thinks she's about 100
smells
pounds.
mine, or-
Yeah.
Mark, I can't thank you enough.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah,
From me
appreciate it.
and every law enforcement group that you've helped. Thank you, sir. And thank you for 33 years
Well, we were just talking about it's gonna be 42 with dog training.
with dog training, 42 years
I had
in,
red hair when I started.
I understand.
Me too.
Appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting him do it. Okay.
We did have a motion and a second and discussion, so I will call the vote here. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That carries. 5-0.
Thank you, Mark, we really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Sure.
I'll let this stay, but I'm gonna go watch Farmer Needs and
No worries. No worries. Thank you.
Take
Thank you
care.
for coming.
Here.
Okay, on to new business. We have items 10A and 10B. We have a public comment opportunity. If anyone would like to speak on those items, they are the State Public Safety Funds Plan and Police Department staffing. If you'd like to speak, come on up now. Otherwise, we will go on to 10A.
Can I make a motion?
You okay with that, Matt?
Yep.
Okay.
Motion 1, authorize staff to spend the public safety money as outlined.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries 4-0. 10B, Police Department staffing. Do you have any early motions, or Matt?
I kind of want to hear this one.
Okay, perfect. Matt?
Well, thank you for making my night easy so far. So as we are.
But anyone else's feel.
I would like to make a motion to authorize staff to do the hiring process with the third candidate and authorize staff to extend conditional and final job offers to the candidate if and when appropriate.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Matt, if you could just quickly
Sure.
go over what you were saying.
So as we held our recent process, we identified 3 candidates worth exploring for a full-time police officer position. We've, council granted authorization to extend job offers to the first 2 candidates, and we're progressing them through the process. But given the job market and how many of the cities are seeing no applicants for months, I think we felt really fortunate to have 7 applicants and 3 of them that are worth a good look at as potential police officers. And
When's the last time we had 3 candidates in the same pool that were qualified? I don't know if that's happened in my time.
yeah, it's been some time, and like I said, we have not fully progressed through the process with the third candidate because there is financial investment as far as the background, psychological, and a few other steps to find out if they're going to be the
Part
right
of the
fit for the city.
allocation we just did would help towards some of those costs.
It could, yep.
Okay.
See, so I would let other cities know that this is what happens when you don't shit on your police department. You get applicants.
Yeah.
I love it.
Treat
Thank you.
them good.
I think it goes
They treat you
beyond
good.
that. It's not just
I'd
for
rather
framing
say
to do
we take
negative.
care of them than do what
Well,
you did.
I'm telling you,
That's a boiled down version of it,
Yes.
So I did want to say, I was at the state conference last week with 400 other city administrators or assistants or variants. And I do want to commend our department that I had dozens of people coming to me asking about some of the programming that we have. And so even as I've talked with some of you, I heard you say, don't tell them about it because we've got a good thing going and we don't want anybody to know about it. But the fact that our department has become a model for how to take care of your officers in the state, that was pretty evident to me, I think is remarkable, noteworthy, and Matt and his team are commended for that. And the fact that we have 3 solid candidates is a testimony to the culture that's being established amongst our department. We've got great officers who are doing great work. That's why we're one of the safest communities in the state. And this is just another step to make sure that we maintain that orientation.
I didn't mean to minimize it, but other cities are driving away good candidates by their actions. And I'm talking about even the citizens, not just the council.
Yep. No, I think our community is,
We're blessed.
I don't know if I've gotten more compliments from just general people in the community on anything that we do more than our PD. How visible you guys are, how just big a part of the community that you are, and every time it shocks people when they know the size of the department, for how you guys seem to be everywhere and involved in so much in a positive way, and it's not a huge department, and so I think that's one of many things to give props to you for and for the whole department for.
We're also a beneficiary of a virtuous circle that we have inherited and continue to foster, where the police treat the community with respect. So the community treats the police with respect. And the community tells the council they appreciate the police, and so we treat the police with respect in turn. And that just continues to feed on itself over time. Those systems are fragile, and mistakes happen, and sometimes that can cause those cycles to stop. But I'm thankful that we have it while we have it, and I commend you, Matt, for continuing your part of keeping that running through your hiring process and through the way you take care of those people.
Can I tell a funny story?
Sure.
So one
So
of
we
our
gotta get to we do have a motion in a second, so after
one of
that.
our recent police officer hires said he was driving, like his first day, he was driving down the road. You know this story. And like somebody waved to him, and he was like, "Well, that's weird. Who's that?" Trying to figure out who it was. Then somebody else
Just a
waved
random
to him,
person.
and he was like, "What's going on? Is someone in trouble?" And then a third person waved to him, and he asked, like, why are these people waving to him? And some other officer said, "Our citizens actually wave at our police officers." And
They're just saying hi.
yeah, and it blew his mind. He thought something was going wrong.
And
Well, I appreciate you, and I wanna, I guess, reflect from our officers, you know, they hear you and they see the care and consideration that you guys, and that you guys give to them and the community shares with them. And it was before your time, Jay, but our council spent a lot of time, on the recruitment and retention stuff as well, making sure that, things were the right fit and had the wellness components that were meaningful to them, but also taking care of the staff. And the investment, not just the decision-making investment, but the time investment was noted by our staff, and it is appreciated. And I think it's one of the reasons that a lot of our staff really do feel honored to serve this community and serve this council. So thank you all for the time that you invest and your feedback. I mean, I think our goal is to be constantly improving. We aren't trying to, you know, just rest on past successes. We know as the community changes and grows, the hardest thing going forward is going to be keeping that that intimate relationship we have with the community. I'd say if there's a fear in the police department, it's losing that connection.
you told me that on day one, when I was elected, when I came in. That's the first thing you told me. And
And
100% true.
Our officers value that as well, so I appreciate your support, and as do they.
And to piggyback off that intimate relationship, if you have never or you haven't recently done a ride-along with some of our officers, I just throw that out as a consideration. Because the community continues to change. We have new roads every week. We have new neighborhoods growing every day. 117 housing permits since January 1st. So that means that there's a constant change in our community. That's a challenge to our officers. That's a challenge to our residents. And so for you all to see that firsthand and hear from them riding along in the car, I think goes a long way. Because they see things and hear things that the rest of us do not.
Okay, to the motion and the second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
And then with that, do we have any staff reports of note?
Coming up on May 21st, we got forward with the audit yesterday. For the first step, we will close it out next Thursday. So
Two
super
months?
proud moving.
That sounds short.
Well, compared to last year.
It's a whole nother conversation.
We are really blessed to have very great help from Abdo, and Jody has done a fantastic job stepping up to the plate and doing work for us. So it's going very smoothly, but it's a lot of work. But that said, once that is complete, we're going to be able to finally get you our first quarterly financial report coming on the 21st. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. And some other, looking forward to some staff reports. If you have things that you'd like to hear about, that you're just curious about, please send me a note so we can make sure that we include that in a staff report section. We don't have to talk about it a lot, but I want to make sure that we're providing you the information as you're talking to residents. They have got questions or concerns that you're responding to. I want to make sure that we're giving you the information you need to respond to their queries.
Can I make can I commend you on the mess you walked into and getting that Abdo stuff done in short order and fixing things? We appreciate it. Thank
Big
you
time.
publicly.
When I've
Appreciate
talked
it.
to, thank you. When I talked to my peers in the short-term decision, where I started on the 4th and I had a huge ask of you on the 18th, I was in the job for 14 days. So the amount of trust that you extended to me, we would not be here if you didn't open your hands and say, okay, run with scissors, Jay. So thank you for the trust, the extended trust that goes to all our staff. We would not, we'd still be laboring through some hard things. So we did a huge ask, and you stepped up and said yes. So thank you for that support.
You've done a great job and lots of work ahead, but I know we're in good hands with you. John, then Dean.
We have council reports? Oh, you can go ahead.
Well, that's a question. Do we have any?
I wanted to say something.
Okay. Dean, did you?
Go ahead.
I don't know what we can do about it as a council.
Okay.
I just wanted to talk about an incident that happened here in Corcoran. There there was a firefighter, paid on call, and the same thing could happen to a reserve, but he got injured while being a volunteer firefighter paid on call.
Okay.
And injured so much that he couldn't do his regular job.
Okay.
And paid on call firefighters like make, I'm just making this number up, it's like $2,000 a year.
Yep.
And so he went to a call and got kicked, and his family is screwed because he can't function in his regular role. There's no insurance, when you have insurance or work comp through your fire department or the reserves on the police department, if one of them got hurt and it's not their full-time gig, they get a percentage of what they got as a volunteer. So if a reserve or a paid-on-call firefighter gets hurt on the job, they get like, I'm just gonna make this number up too, it's 50% or some percent of what they get on their paid-on-call status.
Okay.
So their work comp doesn't cover anything that happens to
Right.
their regular job.
Right.
And legislatively, there's kind of nothing you can do about it. And there's nothing you can do about it in your regular job because it happened on your other job.
Right.
So there's this real big problem for people who, in my opinion, there's this huge problem for people who volunteer and get hurt while volunteering
Mm-hmm.
and lose their livelihood. There's nothing there to support them.
Oh.
And I'm not asking, I'm just putting out there, I'm putting to 5 people who are pretty reasonably
I have a
smart,
question.
like what can a city do and why shouldn't we lean on the state to have some sort of program for that? Yeah, go ahead.
Would their regular job, long-term disability insurance cover? It's not workman's comp, but they still would be disabled.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not all the companies have that.
Yeah,
And then now you gotta pay for it to get it, for some companies.
yeah, and yeah,
It's a
I don't know
question.
the answer to that. I really don't.
It's an individual question, that's true. but-
Yeah.
It's maybe a question that we bring, maybe you and me, John, or someone to, like a Danny and a Joe. He's on a lot of those committees.
I know, it's,
Yeah,
yeah, it's, the guy's name is Mike Bacall. He's a Corcoran resident who lost his livelihood while being a, like, volunteer firefighter.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
One of the things that we can do is we can talk to our work comp folks, find out how big the gap is or what that gap is, and then we can see what cost would be. Our city does carry short-term and long-term disability umbrella, and we're covering a large number of people. What would that impact be to
Yeah.
include reserves or not? And that could be a policy consideration that
as
you.
far as policy and
Yeah.
Let's
insurance,
look
if
at all
there's a
sorts of
bump.
Learn more
options and
about,
just try to
bring
figure
that
out
to you guys
Yeah.
if
if there's
you're
anything we
interested.
can do down the road.
I was wondering too, on Tuesday, I learned just a smidge about some of the firefighter and the police department resources that are available. So I know there's a foundation on the police side. There's probably something similar on the fire side.
there
that-
is, but it's so, like,
It's
they don't,
retirement age.
it's not, I mean, it's important
Yeah.
for the circumstance, but there's not a lot of money there. When you're
I
talking
was
about-
surprised by it looked like FFA, Minnesota Firefighters, but they put up the wrong logo. on
Oh, they
Tuesday.
did?
They did, yeah, for the FFA. But the firefighter folks who were part of the honor guard, and when they talked about the
Yeah.
amount of resources they put towards families who have lost a loved one, I wonder if there's any possibilities for them to provide similar resources to someone who lost
So
livelihood.
that's part of, they have engaged with that organization, and there's not a carve-out for that. And there's a small carve-out, but we're talking about, the cost of maybe
Rest of your
a really nice funeral with somebody's very specific livelihood. Mike's got a GoFundMe if anyone wants to look, but yeah,
Please
it's,
send that to me.
I will. I don't know, I'm just thinking of it I'm just throwing it out there from a city's perspective. We got a lot of people that volunteer here. And our employed reserves, if one of them got run over in a traffic stop and they have another job, they would get unemployment or not unemployment, work comp, and get paid like a fraction of their reserve salary. Well, if it's their second thing they do, it doesn't matter what it doesn't impact their
I
livelihood.
think for us, it might look a little bit different, because under LMCIT, we have some different coverages in terms of liability when we have volunteers. I can get some information
Yeah,
to you in
yeah.
order to,
Yeah.
but
I
I,
think our work comp, I think our disability covered part of lost
Yes.
wages for
Oh, okay.
their
as
other.
STD,
Let's get some of
LTD.
that information together and bring it
Yeah.
back to us, and
It's
then.
probably a state issue, but I want you guys to be aware of like
Yep.
some of the things that happen in
Appreciate
our
it.
community volunteers' lives.
Appreciate it, yeah, I think once they have the information, let's, maybe you and I talk and see if it's something we can bring to someone like Danny or someone.
Danny or Kristen.
Or Kristen, yeah, the only reason I thought Danny is because he's on a lot of the pension.
Yeah.
Different kind of committees that are
Yeah.
maybe relevant, but Kristen could certainly either directly help or point us in the right direction for sure, so.
Fair enough.
Or, and same with Senator.
Thank you guys for
Limerick.
listening to me. It wasn't on the
Of
agenda.
course. Of course,
I
anything
had,
else?
I had one, and Jay, you can maybe stop me. Corcoran cleanup day was Saturday. Third year in a row for me. I had a blast. Rained all the while, but, what a great bunch of staff we have, public works guys, everybody that participated. It was a blast. I met a lot of residents and I met some not residents, but we still took their stuff anyhow, and their money. But, our staff does a really good job making that happen and such, so.
Dean's like
Wanted
such a
to
great
thank those
city
guys.
councilman. He just hangs out at the Corcoran cleanup day. I gotta commend you for that.
You get donuts and pizza.
Oh, you
man.
do?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had pizza at
Good
the,
pizza.
It was good pizza.
firearm safety thing as well.
And we did have some really fun photos.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. So,
Good deal.
if anybody wants to volunteer, next year, about the same time.
Or
It
there's
is-
plenty
it
of
is a
stuff
good
coming
time.
up the rest of the summer too.
8 AM to noon for that one, and like you just said, a whole bunch of stuff coming up this summer. So, thank you guys. Thanks for
Chairman, did you have
listening.
something? You give me a look, or is it just
No, I didn't.
just hanging out? Okay. All right. Then with that, only remaining item we have.
Wait, I wanna schedule something.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
The,
I missed something.
I'm gonna ask, we pushed this back over a year, almost 2 years now, but I wanna move the firearms ordinance off the 13th. I won't be there.
Okay.
It's something near and dear to me.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think you need to be there for that one, so let's,
Move it to the
next
27th.
meeting. Does that work? Perfect.
Please.
That works for me. Thank you.
For that flexibility.
And then just one note that our next meeting is Tuesday, we've talked about this earlier, Tuesday, the 21st of May, not the 23rd as usual, due to scheduling conflicts on the 23rd. And with that, the City Council is going into closed session to consider an offer for real estate. Under the authority of Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3C3, the city is permitted to close a meeting to consider offers and counteroffers for the purchase or sale of real or personal property. The City Council is going into closed session to consider an offer for real estate. The following properties are the subject of the closed meeting. PID 01-119-2331-0002, PID 23-119-2343-0008. We are.
Recording stopped.